You have probably heard them before, not seen them. Heard them, a sound so loud that it seems to rise from the trees themselves. On certain summer mornings, the air begins to vibrate before you even understand where the sound is coming from. It starts as a distant hum. Then it grows, branch by branch, tree by tree, until an entire neighborhood seems to be singing with one enormous voice. Most people hear that sound and keep walking. Some close the windows. Some complain about the noise. Others remember hearing it when they were children and never knowing what it meant. But long before that sound fills the air, another story has already been unfolding beneath your feet. A story that began almost 2 decades earlier. A story hidden under lawns, forests, gardens, sidewalks, and roots. A story of patience so extreme that it almost feels impossible. Today we are going to follow the journey of a creature that spends nearly its entire life underground. A creature that waits in darkness for 17 years. Not for a season, not for a winter, not for a few quiet months. 17 years. And then, when the exact moment arrives, it climbs out of the earth, breaks open its own body, becomes something entirely different, and spends the few remaining weeks of its life doing the one thing it waited all that time to do. Let us go back to the beginning. 17 years ago, on the branch of an ordinary tree, a female periodical cicada was nearing the end of her short adult life. She had already emerged, transformed, sung, mated, and now carried the future inside her. Using a sharp structure at the end of her abdomen, she cut tiny slits into the soft wood of a young branch. Into each opening, she placed her eggs. Then she moved forward and did it again. One small cut, one small cluster of eggs, again and again. By the time she finished, hundreds of eggs were hidden inside the living wood. A few weeks later, she died. She would never see what became of them. But the story was only beginning. 6 to 10 weeks later, the eggs hatched. Tiny pale nymphs crawled out of the branch, so small that most people would never notice them. They did not look like the loud insects they would one day become. They had no wings, no song, no bright eyes. They were small, soft, and almost helpless, but they already knew the first command of their lives. Go down. One by one, they dropped from the branch. Some landed safely in grass or leaf litter. Some hit hard ground. Some were eaten before they could even begin. But the ones that survived pushed into the soil and disappeared. Within hours, they had entered a world almost no human ever sees. A world of roots, darkness, moisture, and time. There, beneath the ground, the young cicadas found tree roots. They attached themselves with piercing mouthparts and began feeding on xylem, the thin watery fluid that moves through trees. It is not rich food. It is not sweet fruit. It is not tender leaves. It is mostly water and minerals. And yet from this poor underground stream, the cicadas would build their bodies slowly, silently, year after year. They would grow through 5 stages. They would shed their skins underground. They would move deeper or higher as the seasons changed. And all the while, above them, the world would continue without knowing they were there. Trees would grow taller. Branches would break in storms. Children would become adults. Gardens would change hands. Houses would be painted different colors. And below all of it, the cicadas would wait. This is one of the great mysteries of the natural world. How does a creature buried in darkness count to 17? There is no sunrise underground, no calendar, no winter sky, no falling leaves to watch. And yet millions of cicadas across entire regions emerge at nearly the same time. Scientists believe they may track small chemical changes in tree roots as each season passes. They may also rely on internal biological clocks that continue running deep inside their bodies. The truth is probably a combination of both, a hidden timer made of chemistry, temperature, growth, and instinct. But even now, no one has completely explained how so many insects buried under the earth can agree on the same year. And then, in the 17th spring, something changes. The soil warms. The roots shift. The hidden clock reaches its final number. And across forests, parks, backyards, and quiet streets, the ground begins to open. The first openings are easy to miss. Small round holes appear in the soil, no wider than the tip of your finger. At first there are only a handful, then dozens, then hundreds. By sunset they seem to be everywhere, and when darkness finally settles over the forest, the earth begins to move. One by one, the nymphs climb out. For 17 years they have known only darkness. Now, for the first time in their lives, they feel fresh air, moonlight, the rough surface of tree bark. Everything is unfamiliar. Everything is new. But they do not stop to explore. They have another task to complete. Driven by instincts older than human civilization itself, they begin climbing. Tree trunks, fence posts, tall grass, garden chairs, wooden fences, brick walls, anything tall enough to lift them above the ground. Their movements are slow, careful, almost awkward. Some lose their grip and fall. Some become food for birds waiting in the darkness. Others are discovered by ants before they ever reach safety. Nature has never promised that every individual will survive. But survival has never depended on every individual. It depends on numbers. Millions emerge together, so many that predators simply cannot eat them all. Scientists call this predator satiation. For a few remarkable weeks, the cicadas overwhelm every hungry mouth around them. Birds eat until they cannot eat anymore. Squirrels feast. Foxes, raccoons, turtles, even fish benefit from insects falling into streams. The forest receives an unexpected banquet, and because there are so many cicadas, enough always survive. It is one of the oldest survival strategies on Earth. Simple, brilliant, and incredibly effective. Eventually, each nymph finds a suitable place. It grips the bark tightly with powerful claws. Then everything becomes still. For several minutes, nothing appears to happen. But hidden beneath the brown outer shell, an extraordinary transformation has already begun. A thin crack slowly forms along the back. The opening widens, very slowly. The adult cicada begins pulling itself free. First the head appears, then the front legs. The body bends backward almost impossibly as it slides out of the shell that protected it for nearly 2 decades. Its new body is completely white, soft, fragile. Its wings look like folded sheets of glass. For a while, it simply hangs there, motionless. Gravity helps stretch its body into shape. Gradually, fluid is pumped into the delicate wings. Minute after minute, they expand. The body hardens. The pale white color slowly darkens. Orange veins begin to appear inside the wings. The famous red eyes become brighter with every passing hour. By sunrise, the transformation is complete. The creature that entered the night as a digging nymph has become a flying adult. The empty shell remains attached to the tree, perfectly preserved. Every leg, every claw, every tiny detail. It looks alive, but it is only a memory. Perhaps you have picked one up before, maybe when you were a child. Maybe you wondered what strange creature had left it behind. That shell is not simply an empty skin. It is the final page of 17 hidden years. Now the cicada has entered the shortest chapter of its entire existence. Everything it has done until this moment has been preparation. Its adult life will last only a few weeks. It will never dig again. It will never return underground. It has only one purpose left: to sing, to find a mate, to begin the next generation. As the days grow warmer, the forests become louder. At first, only a few males begin calling. Then hundreds answer, soon thousands, until the sound becomes almost impossible to ignore. Every species has its own rhythm, its own pattern, its own language. The females listen carefully. Among millions of voices, they recognize the exact song of their own kind. When they hear the right call, they answer with a tiny movement of their wings, a soft click, barely audible to human ears, but unmistakable to the waiting male. He flies toward the sound. If he succeeds, a journey that began 17 years earlier finally reaches its destination. Within days, the females once again begin placing eggs inside young branches. The next generation is already waiting. Soon, tiny nymphs will fall to the ground. The long countdown will begin again. Everything seems perfectly planned, perfectly timed, almost impossible to interrupt. But hidden among millions of healthy cicadas, something else has also been waiting, patiently, silently, for exactly the same 17 years. The cicadas have completed the journey that began 17 years ago. They have escaped the darkness. They have unfolded their wings. They have filled the forests with sound. From the outside, everything appears perfect. The cycle has reached its final chapter, or so it seems, because nature is rarely satisfied with a simple ending. Hidden beneath the noise of millions of singing cicadas is another story, one that almost nobody notices, one that has been unfolding just as patiently beneath the same forest floor. It begins with something too small to see, a microscopic fungus called Massospora cicadina. Unlike the cicadas, it has no song, no wings, no bright red eyes. It spends nearly its entire existence hidden in the soil, waiting for exactly the same event. When millions of cicadas emerge together, the fungus awakens. Its spores, invisible to the human eye, rest quietly in the earth for years. As newly emerged cicadas crawl across the ground, some unknowingly pass through these spores. The encounter lasts only a moment. The consequences last for the rest of the insect's life. The fungus enters through tiny openings in the cicada's body. At first, nothing changes. The cicada climbs. It transforms. It sings. It flies. It searches for a mate. Everything appears completely normal, but hidden inside, another organism has already begun growing. Slowly, patiently, the fungus does something extraordinary. It does not kill its host. Not immediately. A dead cicada cannot fly. A dead cicada cannot spread spores. Instead, the fungus keeps the insect alive. It allows the cicada to continue behaving almost normally, while something remarkable is happening inside. Days later, the rear portion of the abdomen slowly begins to disappear. Not because of a predator, not because of injury. The fungus gradually replaces the insect's own tissues. Eventually, much of the abdomen is gone. In its place is a white mass packed with millions of new spores. Yet the cicada continues walking. It continues flying. Some infected males even continue singing. Researchers have discovered something even stranger. Infected males sometimes imitate the wing flick signals normally produced only by females. Healthy males approach what they believe is a potential mate. Instead, they unknowingly collect fungal spores. The fungus has effectively turned the cicada into a vehicle for its own reproduction. It is one of the most astonishing examples of behavioral manipulation ever documented in nature. The cicada believes it is completing the purpose of its life. The fungus is using that purpose to complete its own. Two completely different life forms, one unknowingly serving the other. After millions of years of evolution, both have become locked together in an extraordinary biological relationship. It sounds almost unbelievable, yet it happens every time these remarkable insects return. And suddenly, the empty shell clinging to a tree becomes much more than the remains of an insect. It becomes evidence of a story that began 17 years earlier, a story of patience, transformation, survival, and unseen battles taking place beneath our feet. Perhaps that is why periodical cicadas continue to fascinate scientists around the world. Even after decades of research, they still leave us with questions. How do millions know the exact year to emerge? How does their internal clock remain so accurate for nearly 2 decades? How did such a remarkable partnership between fungus and insect evolve? Some mysteries have answers. Others continue to unfold with every new generation. The next time you hear a forest filled with that unforgettable chorus, pause for a moment. Listen carefully. Those voices belong to creatures that have waited 17 years for this single season. Every song represents nearly 2 decades of patience hidden beneath the earth. Every empty shell tells the story of a life that most people never knew existed. And perhaps the most extraordinary part is this. While we measure our lives in busy days and crowded calendars, nature has been quietly keeping a 17-year promise beneath our feet all along. Have you ever discovered one of these empty shells on a tree? Or have you experienced the incredible sound of millions of cicadas singing together? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you would like to discover another incredible creature whose life is even stranger than this one, another hidden survivor that spends years preparing for a single, unforgettable moment, then the next story is one you will not want to miss.